Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Darksiders 3. We're about to begin taking on Pride. Maybe there is a whole puzzle here, but yeah, maybe not. Let's see. You're about to enter the final act. You will not be able to return to any incomplete boss encounters. Proceed. What in the world does that even mean? And interesting that the animation there had me walking through it when I said no. What do they mean by incomplete boss encounters? Where could I go? What could I do? Like, as far as the radar at the top, which has been wholly underutilized, it says final act, which that's an interesting way to phrase things, too.
As you wish. This will be as you wish.
Like,
Please,
I guess the question would be, of the places on the map, where would there even be a boss battle? Oh, I guess I didn't even think of this, but around the halfway point of the game, I chose not to kill the angel Ursiel, and instead forgave him for being blinded by lust, which lust was a terrible character visually depicted. Yeah, there's really nowhere you could go, as far as I know, like, unless they mean something else as far as a boss encounter. So, I mean, you could go to the Void and take on the Void guy, but I'd probably die still on that Void fight. I don't think I can beat all 100 levels on the Crucible, but those are the only two places that even have bosses, or that I would think of calling actual bosses. So, potentially, I guess, had I killed Ursiel, I would have gotten Ursiel's soul. And that would have been potentially siding with the demons for your ending in this spot. That's what I'm betting would have happened, but I didn't kill him. I did kill the demon. I don't even remember his name. A Basil or something. And then I got his soul, and it was in the slot. And then I chose not to kill the Lord of Hollows, and now I have this mysterious stone sigil. So it feels like there are three different endings based on those three odd choices. No Darksiders game has ever had you make choices before. And almost certainly the correct ending is to side with the humans, because the humans, at the very least, were not involved with the premature causing of the apocalypse, whereas the angels and demons, some angels and some demons, were involved. So almost certainly that is the good ending. Let's go through here. Now it says final act. Does that mean final fight? I don't know. And it certainly seems like you could just leave at this point. So the warning may have been a little premature. Now we had come here once before, and Pride just talked through the door and said you have to see the other 7 deadly sins. Which noticeably, I don't think we killed Envy. Did we? They talked about Envy. They said Envy had never seen any combat and hasn't been on the battlefield in years. So, but yeah. So there might be a secret Envy boss battle somewhere. It might even be that skeleton character that is kind of like a secret character that you have to fight at the in the first game. You don't have to fight it, it's an optional fight. I doubt Pride here is going to be Envy, or that we're going to fight two people in a row, but maybe.
Confidence suits you.
This
When earned, yes.
Pride
You
looks like
are
an angel.
proud. See, I never understood why pride was considered a deadly sin. The power you feel now after having completed an arduous task. Isn't it empowering? You've shown great promise. Done exceptional work. Don't you deserve something for it?
Perhaps, but not from you.
Before you make a tragic mistake, I'd like to
She
make
looks
you an offer.
fairly humanoid.
You've seen the world. You've seen the state it's in. You're smart enough to know that someone somewhere has lied to you. There is no plan. There is no balance. It's all lies. But imagine if it were true. Imagine if you and I truly set out to give the world direction, order. Isn't that your true purpose? We could be the force for balance the world deserves. We could be greatness.
Really think that just those two could take the entire Child Council?
At one time, that speech might have worked on me. But that was when I did not understand how ugly pride could be. Thank you for your generous
They
offer, but
probably
if this world
don't
is to be
want to
fixed,
animate her face.
neither of us will be the ones to do it.
It'd be funny if she really was ugly under that mask.
Such an ugly thing. Why do you even try?
Yeah, this definitely fights like a this definitely fights like a angel fight that would have been in the first game. It's a nice little arena room. I wish more of the rooms in this game, particularly when you're fighting, were about this size and round.
Nothing accomplished your whole life compared to that which I have built.
Alright,
You are to try and bet me.
alright. I need to keep an eye out on my health. Alright. My Undying Shard just saved me.
Great. I'm sure your brothers will be so.
Let's just go ahead and use our Havoc form and see how well that works for us. It doesn't feel like it actually is working that well. A lot of these fights have been very much cakewalks. I just took her out with Shatter.
Did you speak to the Lord of the Hollows? He knew. He too was proud.
Tell me about the council.
Your so-called masters are infected with pride. They serve no balance. Who do you think released the Seven from our prison? What purpose do we serve without humanity to corrupt? Tell me my words do not ring true. You cannot deny the pride that still resides within you, can you?
Enough empty flattery. Tell me everything.
See, this is certainly a point where this game feels like it would have been better, potentially as a movie.
You already know everything, mistress. The great irony here is that for once, your enemy is right. You should feel pride, but you do not. You only feel fear. Fear that you came this close to greatness, only to fall.
See? Your counsel betrays you.
The Watcher could have
Watcher?
done damage this whole time?
Always so pretty. I used to be so jealous of you, sister.
Envy.
No.
Well, that was definitely not a twist I was expecting to see. Yeah, this kind of cutscene definitely feels more like a movie. Like, maybe that's how they should have just finished the Darksiders series after the long delay and THQ going out of business, is to just make an animated movie for the rest of the story. That'd be weird. I'm happier it's a video game.
Was all true.
Yes, all of it. I envy that ignorance. Bliss, is it not?
Interesting that both envy and pride have cleavage being shown somewhat, and
Thanks to our mutual
well, side boob on envy.
that power is mine.
And yet lust really didn't have any cleavage or skin showing.
Had it right. The Charred Council set you up. They want us all dead. All seven sins and the Horsemen. No! Oh, but I knew better.
So it'd be weird if you just die.
I took the form of a trusted servant, and you, Horseman, became both my sword and my shield.
And at a certain point,
With the other sins,
I don't know if we really even need to fight envy or set up for just the next game.
finally be mine.
And that was an odd transition there, where it feels like there should have been more animation in between those two scenes.
Goes before the fall. A bit on the nose, but the message is clear.
And remember, we're in different hollow modes, so once again, we're not seeing her purple hair, which would have been the default way for things to go. Long cutscene there to another cutscene.
You snore. Maybe it's a broken nose.
I wonder if this might be the humanity ending.
Well, looks like you've been busy. Doing what, I have no idea, other than getting your ass handed to you.
Who are you, human? To speak to me like this?
Now, what would be
Just
funny
like
if
a
this is
refugee.
Strife?
Like you. But I am not strong enough to defend the balance. That's your purpose.
I have learned that I am
I would have
weak.
preferred all of these cutscenes to
Make a
turn
man
off the
finally
hollow
understand
effects.
How all humans feel. Pulled into a war they never asked for. Left to their own devices against forces they cannot possibly understand or effectively fight. All of humanity has been betrayed, and yet they still fight on. What about you?
I strayed from the path. I have been jealous. I have been wrathful. I have been lazy.
I guess we're not getting our horse back.
Worse and more. All the things the seven sins stand for, and I have paid dearly for it.
So in other words, you have lived.
Yes.
Good then. You're finally alive. And with life, there is always hope.
Hope.
They really shouldn't have given him a hood for this animation. That's just a terrible way to show this human.
Destroy the Charred Council, even as we speak. And I remain stranded on Earth. So when you speak of hope, human, I cannot concur. All hope is lost.
No. Haven is built on hope. Come, speak to Ulthane. You'll see.
It's like they just didn't want to animate his hair, or they wanted him to be very monk-like. And now we are at the 4th cutscene at this point, and it is just transition from cutscene to cutscene. From mostly pre-rendered cutscenes. So this whole time he's been making a portal instead of making a anvil to make like some kind of ultimate weapon.
How can I ever repay you?
It's still
I can finally sleep
Place
safe.
is beautiful.
It's still really just the same group of people with the same responses.
I would have died out there if it wasn't for you.
Let's just turn off our ability. And see, now the radar is pointing at nothing. So I assume Envy is at the Charred Council. And we don't really have a lot of room to upgrade anything. Anyways.
Why?
Just
did
walking
they
near
help
him.
me?
It's kind of what humans do. And the fact that you sent more than a few survivors our way didn't hurt.
All for naught.
We didn't pull you from the rubble to quit now. Envy holds the power of the Seven. Your betrayal can be seen on your face. Left for dead like some useless, discarded thing.
Even in this case, when you see her purple hair, it's just waving around all over the
Here,
place, and it still doesn't
take
look
it.
particularly that good.
A gift from the Lord of Hollows. Deserves to be in stronger hands than mine.
You know not what you offer, Horseman. You cannot be serious.
It's important. Clearly, I'm not worthy.
I have
Don't
no
you
idea
want
what
it?
that sigil does.
This was not meant for me. The Lord of Hollows knew whom he was choosing. His faith will not be questioned. Not by me, anyway.
What?
This milestone should be acknowledged. If you won't do it, I'll do so for you.
And once again, we're jumping
Reflecting
between
Aye, with a few.
what feels like in-engine cutscenes and pre-rendered cutscenes.
What is only meant for you will only take you to your heart's desire.
I desire only to finish what the Council began.
Find your resolve, Horseman. It's all you have now. And it is what you need if you're to stop envy and unseat your former masters.
The problem with the Charred Council, though, is that they've just been shown as these giant rock creatures with, like, basically infinite amounts of power, you would assume.
For fighting on the right side of history, Horseman. Humanity won't forget this.
Like,
You brought so many.
these
Welcome,
characters were totally,
You've brought so many.
totally useless characters. Like, might as well have not existed.
What do you need, Horse?
Aye.
Aiming to lay down a mighty hurt, are we?
Yeah, I'd need one more piece to upgrade a weapon. And I don't have anything with the fragments.
All right. Let's
And
see what I
then
can do for you.
I don't think we can upgrade anything else.
Interesting. Good luck to you, Fury.
So it is probably just a boss fight back to back, and I don't know what we're doing to actually defeat the Charred Council. No warning that this is the end of the game. But you really couldn't convince me at this point that the game wasn't rushed to be in a finished state, or really an unfinished state, and that we're seeing here. Like you wouldn't see this many cutscenes in a row. She has the Horsemen's weapons, I believe. Some of those guns, I think, might be the Horsemen's weapons. And that sword might be War's sword. And that's Death's scythe.
You haughty sons of whores have had this coming for eons, and you have no one but yourselves to thank for it.
Your lust for power will be your undoing, Envy.
Well, isn't that the pot calling a kettle black? When I'm done here and you're nothing
But see, even
left
this
but
really
death,
does
I
show
will simply wait out the apocalypse and
the problem
destroy
with fighting the
whatever
Charred
weakened
Council. They are
remnants
just
remain.
these fireball flinging
The earth
statues.
will be mine.
It's over.
I wonder what
You
the demon ending or the angel ending would look like.
up. You command nothing but my scorn.
Probably
and you
pretty
will
much the
know
same.
my fury soon enough. Yield or die, envy.
Seriously?
No, but it was worth a shot.
Yeah, I was definitely leaning more on the thought that the Watcher might turn out to be a good guy. I suppose, at a certain level, the Watcher turning out to be Envy is different than just the Watcher being a Watcher and being evil. And at a certain level, I suppose this is a argument that Fury is stronger than Death, and War. So she's summoning these green with envy versions of the seven deadly sins. These may not actually be the weapons of these may not actually be the weapons of death, as much as they might be just fake versions, envious, greedy versions of those weapons. But once again, like, just a little too easy at this point. It's no surprise that the other difficulty levels are so difficult at the beginning if most of the gameplay testers were playing at level 50 and they had already upgraded all of their armor and attack.
It was mine! All of it was mine! I deserved it! I had it! Mine!
For the horsemen.
And I guess if I could stick a chain whip through her chest. Why haven't I been doing that? Yeah, that's like Death's mask that she's wearing, I think. It looks a lot like Death's masks. It also looks a lot like the main logo. So I assume Fury is just going to take all of the 7 Deadly Sins power.
It would seem you have finally accomplished your task, Fury. Perhaps you should be rewarded. But perhaps not. Envy may have caught us unawares, but we have more than enough power to deal with an insect like you. You have overstepped your bounds, Horseman. You shall be punished, along with your brothers, like the impudent child you are.
This is the first time in the cutscene you've switched to the Flame Hollow, or switched Hollow at all.
Stop! Where did you get that? Deliver that unto us.
No. No. I don't think it was made for you. Besides, feels pretty good.
Such arrogance! Such gall!
No, that would be pride. This is truth. And the truth is, this can destroy you!
You'll never find out, wretch!
So I guess we are potentially going to figure out what it does. Although, why are we throwing the other 7 Deadly Sins power? Notably, War is absent there, so we don't know where he went. And we still don't know the timeline at all. Who's that guy?
Unity is key. If we're to move forward from here, we must move as one.
You won't make it.
The Council.
Enraged. No doubt fueling the attack on Haven in secret. If you have a plan for them. The time is now. Heaven, hell, the Charred Council. They wish to see them annihilated.
We're back to purple hair
This,
in this cutscene.
perhaps you don't know the reason. Even before the apocalypse, why were your lives so hard? Because you were created for a great purpose and left unprotected. So those who fear you have set out to destroy you with false promises and wars and sin that they blame on you. They all fear you. That fear can be used against them. Humanity can win this war.
How?
Look around you. This is what's left of humanity, and we are in no shape to fight a war on the scale you suggest.
No. You must hide.
From the eyes of heaven and hell. The Council? That's exactly what must be done. But what humanity needs more than a good hidey-hole is a protector.
A protector?
Now we have a different cutscene. The colors definitely feel off. See, that big dragon guy was the big bad guy.
We shall
from the first game. It seems like the armies of heaven aren't going to show up in the end. So maybe you would have gotten a different ending if you had not killed the demon.
The Makers will buy us the necessary time to shuttle the other humans away.
Away to where?
North, back to the council chamber. What sort of a beaker would it be if I built a doorway that only connected two places, huh? Your heart's desire, horseman. Safe place for a fool that wants.
I don't understand.
Aye. Well, you will. Sadly, you will understand it all as you travel with them.
Me?
They are in need of protecting, and you need a new purpose. Am I wrong?
It's, I think, a mistake. It's kind of cliche that the one female horseman is becoming the maternal protector of humanity. But they wrote the story fairly well to get to that point.
I vow to use all of the powers in my possession to protect humanity. And one day, we will set things right. Together. Uthane, my brother, War, is an innocent in this drama. If you ever find an opportunity to assist him in any way, I would ask you to do so.
I will.
So yeah, this entire game is a prequel. It takes place before War.
May our future be one of justice.
War's adventure in the first game. Which I guess pretty much all the games have to be a prequel or continuation of the final scene of the first game. It does seem very weird that a human would be able to even use like maker guns to do enough damage. And yeah, he was Strife the whole time. So the Strife side game is actually a prequel to this prequel. They're just going further and further back in time. And I suspect they may not even show you where she ends up. Like, I have no idea where that would be. Like some place like the Well of Souls possibly, or just an entirely different planet. Or some void-like dimension. Way too many cutscenes though. Like, there's no way you can say this game should have ended like that. And us not killing Ursiel seems to have not rewarded us in any way whatsoever. If anything, I guess if you had potentially killed Ursiel and gotten Ursiel's soul, then you would have just used that as a weapon against the Charred Council at the end, and probably gotten almost the exact same ending, just using an angel soul against the Charred Council, which I don't think that really would have worked. Or if you hadn't gotten, like, if you hadn't had killed the Lord of Hollows, maybe you wouldn't have gotten the charm sigil, and then you would have used the demon soul. Maybe that wouldn't have worked either. It's ridiculous that there would be any choices in the game at all. They really should have just written Fury to decide to kill the demon, because she wanted to kill the demon, or decide to kill Ursiel because she wanted to kill Ursiel. Her sparing both Ursiel and the demon and the Lord of Hollows should have just been the default canonical way it went. Now, looking at the credits here, notably there was not a lot of people from Gunfire Games actually named in that. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those cases where the THQ Nordic, Gunfire Games and THQ before, the company that went bankrupt, the original THQ, just didn't credit people for one reason or another. There are some crappy companies out there that will definitely not credit people unless they are working with the company at the time that the game comes out. I have no idea why Warner Bros. Would even be involved as far as game audio, but that might explain the audio crashing. But more than likely, I imagine Warner Brothers was just providing an original score. Maybe they're crediting a bunch of people under the external partners banner. Although, is that external partners for making the entire game, or is that external partners for just doing the audio section? Who knows? And then you have this whole Dagger Crown studio and Omnami Workshop, which definitely points that there was 3 different teams working on this game at some point, and you never know who actually did the majority of the work. Although in this case, looking at that ending, there's just a ton of work that's missing. And all you needed to do is move the cutscenes back a lot. Have the reveal, the fight with Pride, somewhere closer to the halfway point in the game, and that cutscene happen, and then have Envy reveal herself, and then have a secondary goal of something that you have to collect before you can get to the Charred Council. Yeah. There could have been... Envy could have shown up. She could have said, I've respawned... in a better way, you could have said, I've respawned all the other 7 deadly sins, and you must defeat them again to even have a chance of succeeding. And if that was the case, then there could be harder versions of each of the 7 deadly sins, and it would give you an excuse to run around the entire level. I would say this game, as far as doing QA, not very good. Like, there is game flow problems and just bugginess that would have needed to have been reported. Now, does that mean it wasn't reported, or does that mean it was reported and they didn't care because THQ Nordic doesn't seem like they really care? Like, this was supposed to be THQ Nordic's before even Embracer Group became a thing as a parent company to THQ Nordic. Notice Embracer Group is not being named in the credits. This was supposed to be their breakout hit. This was supposed to be the thing that they put out to show they're taking the game seriously and they're going to make this their AAA experience. Full Sail University, by the way, is a college. I guess that's Unreal Engine. And there's Lilith.
I told you to silence the traitor. No matter. The young one remains unaware of the power she possesses. The Council will deliberate this turn, and they will send war to Earth. A mistake. The final seal will be broken, and I will revel in the chaos. You may go.
See, I'm not sure they've really shown the real big demon. Okay. So Armageddon 1, continue to Armageddon 1. This will overwrite your current save. So at what point would you want a better, higher challenge other than perhaps to get an achievement? But yeah, I can't imagine that you just would want to get an achievement and jump immediately to like Reckoning from playing story mode. Yeah, I think I would probably stick with story mode again. I hate how it's popping up the mouse cursor here. Alright. So you hit continue.
Why did the Creator construct a universe teeming with imperfection, misery?
Yeah, it definitely feels like you should have beat the 7 deadly sins halfway through the game. Then you should have had a reason to run around the entire world and get all the collectibles. Defeat harder versions of the 7 deadly sins without potentially playing a whole different like a whole different playthrough where all the enemies are stronger. Even though I was having an easy time fighting all of the bosses, I still was struggling fairly right up to the end as far as defeating just your average bad guy on the story.
The Four Horsemen of the apocalypse. Inconceivable power.
I guess the timeline implies, since this is a prequel that happens right as the apocalypse has just happened, that might explain how the humans are still alive. Let's go ahead and skip this. This is the only time, by the way, the skip button is not there. Like, undoubtedly, though.
Thrilling than reality. Had I known the new pact would be so exciting, I would have let walls separate my head from my neck then and there.
Obviously, there should have been a horse
Is it possible to
ability
die?
that you got at some point. Running around the world on a horse would have sped up transitioning.
Bored as I am.
And I guess
Just lazy.
the question is if she'll
I didn't love you so much I'd kill you just for something to do.
will she get another horse? So she's just on some planet.
Finally.
And then this is just another cutscene, so let's just skip it and let's see what this does. Like, it really needs to pop up an explanation as far as what is the New Game Plus really like. Okay. But it's not going to tell me. We only see that horse statue once in the whole game. So, we don't have the hollow mode. We do have Ryder's Mercy. We are at level 52. We only have the Barbs of Steel at the moment. But we do all have all the enchantments. We do have all of the crystals and all of these items. And I suppose since you're not going to have the stasis hollow for a while, you probably should equip base armor. No, I think even if you don't have the hollow ability, you still would want at least this flame hollow armor. And you don't have the Flame Hollow ability, so you can't get up in this area, but maybe you could come back to that area later. This is the whole tutorial just starting over again. And yeah, we never came back and crossed this path. That's just a big gap. We never came back and looked to see if there was anything too secret. Even at the beginning of the game, they're telling you that Envy is talking herself up. Oblivion ore can be used to upgrade your armor. Bring it to a thing to improve your armor. What? We haven't found any Oblivion ore so far. So it kind of feels like the game really only starts when you play it once all the way through. Which, if that's really the case, then you should have been quicker to beat the game. As stupid as it may sound, getting rid of some of the overworld stuff and just having it be a boss rush game, more akin to something like God of War, I think might have worked better. I am confused though. Sliver of Oblivion ore. We didn't find any of these in the first playthrough. Augments a suit of armor up to +3. Robust material that is useful to the whole thing. And almost certainly you have to upgrade your armor in a second playthrough because, well, I don't know really. If I changed the difficulty and turned it up right now, I guess that would justify upgrading armor. But in a lot of ways it would be wise to just play the game a second time through.
Haven. A haven for what? Vermin?
Humans, mistress.
Just see. Like, I'm having kind of a hard time attacking this. And see, if this is Envy, then who is this? Who were we fighting before? Well, color me confused. Best I can figure, this Envy we fight at the beginning of the game was a lie, and designed to distract you from who the real Envy was. Right. Yeah. But if this is the fake Envy, then the plan from the beginning was to make you defeat this character, let you defeat him, and then this bird-like character when none of the other characters are even bird-like. So you had the talisman.
Better than I imagined.
Let's see. Just lock on here and start doing your attack. It's noticeably not that much easier, even in a second playthrough, to take on Envy, or this false Envy.
Pretty. Come and get it.
Ah, that's mine!
So I guess at a certain level this messed with Envy's plans.
Mistress, not to be a bother, but weren't you supposed to catch Envy?
I did.
And she just seemed to magically know what this talisman would do without any explanation. Would have made more sense for the Watcher to tell you.
It's a vessel. Envy used it to hold energies from the rest of the seven.
It will make a fitting prison for the others once their physical forms have been broken.
If I may, there is a sort of hum emanating from the talisman. That glow.
Will indicate when one of the seven is nearby. I know.
So wise. You are all that the council promised.
And yet
mistress.
it doesn't
I'm
point
beginning
to
enjoy the sound of
the
your
Watcher
voice, Watcher.
ever. So the whole thing is a scam from the beginning. We now have Lurcher crystals. How many Lurcher crystals? I'm not just going to play this whole game through. 1,000 for a grand Lurcher crystal. That's pretty good to start with. But inevitably, it seems like any place where there was a item drop, you will just get that item drop again. Any place where there's a chosen, I imagine you would fight the chosen again, and get a essence of chosen. It'll probably be a while before we run into
I would be
Volgren.
remiss in my duties if I didn't point out that even with the talisman, locating the other deadly sins will prove a challenge.
See, this is a great example of
Finding
actually
envy is
doing the
easy
walk
enough.
and talk.
That was a gift, one I would not count on receiving twice. Envy was also, by far, the weakest of the deadly sins.
Anything else to add?
Only what I assume you already know. The armies of both heaven and hell have cordoned off the world of man into various areas of influence. Look around us. The upheaval we have seen is the very personification of the struggle between order and chaos. You have set for yourself an unenviable task, given these environs.
That's what makes it fun. The other sins are hiding across this shattered world. They strike at angels and demons alike in their own selfish bids for power. Their hubris will lead me right to them.
Perhaps
Yeah, you have entire areas here
assistance.
built
Whatever I
around
need, I will take.
doing a walk and talk. And just there being nothing around here. You never really get back to this area either. And see, while this is a Vulgrim point, this oddly is a Vulgrim point before you run into Vulgrim.
I knew that war would one day unleash all this. But seeing it, his gifts are impressive.
May I remind you, mistress, that you have no king among your horsemen brethren.
Definitely seems like they're more willing now to have a adamantium style dark version of enemies spawn. So the character layout is probably different. But I wouldn't be surprised if... Small wisdom shard. What does a wisdom shard do? It's crazy. There's potentially a whole second game around this. Temporarily increase the lurchers received from defeated enemies by 100%. So, yeah. Craft that in the middle of a boss battle for sure. Yeah, I guess I never did come back and get those. The problem here definitely comes back around to, though, why would I want to play this game? We never got onto any of these platforms, if there's some trick to getting to those platforms, by the way. Like, it doesn't quite make sense. The game was not that interesting. Oh yeah, and there's a whole, like, ability, transition ability there that you can't do anything with. And it leads you even higher up. Yeah, basically this game needed to have been half its length if it was going to try and intrigue me into playing it a second time. And even at that, I don't know if it really would have succeeded in convincing me to play it a second time, even though that is what I'm doing right now, just to see what new items we actually would see. I'd like to get to Vulgrim, ideally, and see what his wares and shop looks like. Because if all of a sudden he's selling a whole bunch of other items, that's interesting. But it is now heavily feeling a lot like the second Darksiders game, where the game doesn't even start until you've beaten it once, and the numbers are just going to constantly go up higher and higher, and it's just going to turn into that MMO style Skinner box where if you really enjoy the experience, you'll continuously play the game. Part of the problem, though, with that idea, yeah, we don't have the hollow abilities. So unless we just got all of the hollow abilities the first time we meet the Lord of Hollows, which is after the Fight of Wrath, which is going to be far too far. Let's see. We don't, until we get the hollow abilities, we also cannot, we cannot do any strong attacks. So for your first playthrough, physical strength increase is so important that you might consider respecting just for that reason. Maybe we'll get higher capacities on health and upgrades there. Forsaken Lurcher Crystal 1. What is that? A Forsaken Lurcher Crystal requires 6,000 souls, whereas a Grand Lurcher Crystal only has 1,000. Yeah, it definitely feels like the numbers are just going to go up and up and up. You really can't have a narrative experience, though, if the game was just going to be built around the idea. I don't think I can get up there yet.
Perhaps there are human survivors.
Not my concern.
And I'm trying to rush through all of this, but can only really go so far. Sliver of Oblivion ore instead of adamantium.
That tree. It's impressive. But is it just me, or is it out of place here?
It is a maker tree. Most likely we will find refuge there.
You can see the church, which is kind of your final destination from the beginning of the game. Well, I wouldn't say the rest of the areas are particularly that visible from the maker tree. It would have been potentially nice if you were at the top of the maker tree. And there's a collectible we wouldn't have found. I think there definitely is an argument to
Making a mighty ruckus.
Says the demon who announces his ambush.
It was not
like
my intention to
there is definitely an argument to playing this game a second time and then running through the entire map and getting all the collectibles in a second time on story mode, and then trying to jump to something like the apocalypse modes. And since you can get the numbers higher up, I can't help but suspect that the Crucible would just get easier and easier. Let's go ahead and skip this. Sometimes you hold A to skip, and sometimes you press A to skip. Even in that same cutscene, it had two different interactions.
What would you ask of this? Take your time.
Okay. Noticeably, the Wisdom Shard as a consumable is not something you can buy. For 50,000, you can buy Wicked Adamantium. This augments weapons up to level 13. You can also buy an Essence of Chosen. And buy pieces of adamantium. But none of the other resources per se are really available for purchase.
I knew you as you wish.
As far as feeding him souls to level up, that hasn't changed.
Please take your time.
And as far as places, we could go and take on the Crucible, and that's it. We didn't defeat the final boss in the Void, and we'd have to play that all the way through again. I'm sure. This would be a lot of work with a little promise, but it's kind of promise after the fact. too. And like, I can't help but be unhappy with the way this has gone. Like, this does not make any sense to my mind at all, that you would have entire Forsaken Lurcher Crystals unlocked in your second playthrough, Oblivion Ore unlocked in the second playthrough, Wisdom Shards unlocked in the second playthrough, and just a general desire to make the entire player go through things a second time. And I doubt if I chose a different ending, it would be very satisfactory to see the other endings. I think I got the good ending as much as there was a good ending. And the numbers would just continuously go up. You almost certainly would need to bring up your health higher as you potentially get Nephilim Respites upgrades. The capacity, I assume, may stay at 6, 2 plus 4, but maybe not. It may go up higher and higher. So you may just be able to play the game and always have an ever-increasing amount of health per Nephilim's Respite, but also an ever-increasing amount of capacity. There's nothing stopping you from increasing your physical damage more. There's nothing stopping you from increasing your arcane more. Seemingly, I guess we already have these weapons unlocked. So maybe when the void does unlock, you don't have to go through those void sections and do those sections again. Instead, you just would have to do the final battle, I imagine, because I didn't finish that. Compared to Darksiders 1, I think Darksiders 1 is considerably better than this game. Yeah, this one feels very rushed, and it really should have just been a boss rush. It becomes insanely crazy that they would even have made a side game that is a top-down twin-stick shooter starring Strife and release that also at the same time. If anything, it feels like the Strife sections, there might have been Strife sections in this game, and storyline-wise or just programming-wise, they couldn't get it to quite work. We did see that this is an Unreal Engine game, and it is odd looking and odd playing for an Unreal Engine game. I'm not sure Unreal Engine games based off of older versions of Unreal Engine really come out quite that well as a 3D platforming adventure, as much as the Unreal Engine is a little bit better about just being on the ground and doing first-person shooting and military-style shooting where you're not jumping and dashing and swinging a whip. It is shocking you never used a horse in this game. It's shocking you don't ever get a gun. Your ranged weapon with scatter is underused. There's a ridiculously small number of puzzles. There are basically no dungeons that you would actually identify as a dungeon in the game. So, yeah, I think there is a different version of this game where it is much closer to like a mediocre God of War before the God of War reboot game, where you're beating up on a bunch of people and effectively just dungeon crawling. And then you have a big monster fight at the end of it and do kind of a boss rush where within an hour, almost consistently, you would have gotten to another one of the 7 deadly sins. I would certainly have a lot less to complain about at this point had this game only been 7 hours long, like, or barely made it to 10 hours long. I would have said, okay, well, that felt a little short, but it gave us a decent experience, and there were some extenuating circumstances around the fact that THQ went out of business and THQ Nordic had to establish itself as the replacement to THQ to even ensure that Darksiders 3 came out. And I guess at that level, it's a miracle that Darksiders 3 even did come out. I'm still kind of pot committed. I do want to see a Darksiders 4. I still do want to play the side games starring Strife, but my enthusiasm has not been increased by playing Darksiders 3, and that's really what it needed to do. Effectively now, my fear is that Darksiders 4 may not be that good, and then we never hear about any more Darksiders games, or they immediately start thinking about doing a soft reboot, but then they drop the ball in that aspect also. Arguably, maybe if you took the general stories of Darksiders 1, 2, and 3 and merged them all into one giant game, that might make some bigger sense, but then the gameplay styles are so different. I don't even know really if the Unreal Engine is the engine to be using for these types of games. And then I would definitely be disappointed if Darksiders 4 came out and it was much more closer to Darksiders 2. It needs to be even closer to Darksiders 1 than this game does. It needs to have very recognizable dungeons and feel very much like a Ocarina of Time style adventure game and less of a action beat 'em up game. But overall, it just needs a lot more polish. Like, obviously this game should not have come out in the way it did, with about 5 minutes worth of cutscenes in a row. I imagine, though, I'm starting to repeat myself, so that's going to be it for this series. I have no motivation whatsoever to continue to play this game. There's 17 achievements left. Some of those achievements might hint towards some secret bosses I've missed. Almost certainly, I assume that there is a secret boss I missed, or there are some achievements specifically around making different decisions about whether you kill the angel Ursiel or whether you spare the demon. But yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if several of these achievements are based around playing the game on the hardest mode, or even the Iron Man mode where you die and lose your save file when you die, which the only way I could imagine I could ever beat the game in that mode would be if I was cheating and keeping backups of the save file. And that's just not a challenge I'd ever want to engage with. I don't even want to play the game on a higher difficulty, because it just slows things down. Darksiders 3 is definitely not going to keep me enthusiastic about a potential Darksiders 4. I probably was a bit rabid and foaming at the mouth hoping for Darksiders 3 before it came out. Now I'm going to pretty much forget the Darksiders series exists and just hopefully be happily surprised if in a few years they make 4. Which, so far, as of recording in 2022, I haven't seen any announcement for a Darksiders 4. I imagine they will take their time and make sure the smart move would be to make sure the game is close to finished before you even start to announce it. But yeah, that's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. That helps me with YouTube and tells YouTube that my videos are worth suggesting to other people. If you want to get backup notifications, because notifications really don't work too well on YouTube, there's a bunch of social media links down in the description that you can follow me on to get notifications when a new video is available. And there is also a playlist tab on my YouTube channel that has a playlist for every game I've ever covered. I would definitely recommend going and watching Darksiders. Well, I guess ironically here, the way it goes now is that you should probably watch Darksiders 1 first, then Darksiders 2, then Darksiders 3, but then you have to keep in mind that the events of Darksiders 2 are a prequel to Darksiders 1, I think, and clearly Darksiders 3 is a prequel to at least Darksiders 1, if not Darksiders 2. And almost certainly the side game that I haven't covered is a prequel to Darksiders 3. So they're just going further and further back in time, which maybe highlights the problem in which they had this concept of a cool idea of the Four Horsemen of the apocalypse, and then they set them up to already be involved in the apocalypse, whereas a soft reboot would send them back to the Nephilim War and show them fighting other Nephilim that are as strong as they are, because that is interesting storyline to potentially cover. But yeah, anyways, I was wrapping up. If you want to support me even further than all of that, there is a link down below in the description for a Patreon, or you could friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.